And that's Ken Kahn. He's president of USDLA, also works with I2I Technologies, who's sponsoring the event and bringing in our students. Rolando, can you briefly describe your background and your current role?
Hello, my name is Rolando Garza. I'm with Texas A&M University, Kingsville. I'm an instruction designer 3. My background and my role is working with a faculty across campus, from face-to-face to our digital, hybrid, and online. I've been with the institution since 2009. I'm a go-getter, pioneer, cultivator of change in our campus. To any faculty I work with, if you ask them what I do, I'm their BFFs. And what I do is everything I do every day after hours is for the students, the faculty, and the staff of the institution.
Hello, excuse me. Hi, I'm Rashmi Chetri, and I'm an instructional designer specialist from Lee College. I've been in instructional for just over a year now. My main duties are helping out faculty with online courses and developing modules for their face-to-face courses and hybrid courses. I also serve as some leadership roles in distance education committee to steer ideas for professional development in the college.
Good morning. I'm Tila Watson, and I am a Director of Digital Instruction at ESC Region 11 in Fort Worth. We serve 77 ISDs, 66 charters, about 585,000 students, and 45,000 educators. And in the last 2 years, we've been instrumental in purchasing and pushing out Canvas to over 500,000 students in Region 11 K-12. I have kindergartners all the way to 12th graders in our entire region on Canvas, so that when they get to you, they have a much better understanding of how powerful a learning management system can be.
I'm Mark Workman, Dean of Distance Learning at Blinn College. And oh gosh, I kind of got started in this back in the 70s and 80s when I taught computer science using bulletin board systems, because you can sneak that in since it's a computer. And through the years, went to Blinn College. During that time, you could download WebCT for free. Went to Arizona, to Sholo, and had an under-the-desk server, and we developed some biology courses online, and that was kind of a secret project, but worked great. Went to New Mexico State as vice president of one of their campuses, and then moved to the main campus as assistant vice provost of distance learning and College of Extended Learning. And from there, I went to University of Arkansas, was dean of extended programs and office of distance learning, and developed the largest online program in Arkansas. And then came back to Tarrant County, worked with Kevin up here, and then went on to Blinn, where I have my current position. So I've seen a lot of technologies through the years, and with Frank Phillips College up in the Panhandle, we had the first microwave classrooms in Texas. So that was also quite a challenge and interesting technology back then.
Hi, I'm Dr. Ram de la Rosa. I am the Associate Director for the Center for Online Learning and Teaching Technology at University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. I also teach in the Leadership Studies program, or undergraduate, not program, but undergraduate minor. And I've developed a couple of courses, and I've invited one of my students, Tiva, to participate in the discussion, and we'll ask her a couple of questions about my class. And I haven't propped her for anything, so yeah, it could be good, it could be bad. Hopefully it's good.
Good morning. I'm Harmeet Singh. Currently, I'm in the role of Assistant Professional in Economics at Texas A&M University, Kingsville College of Business Administration. I come from a very different background. As a liberal arts student in India, I never experienced the technology that we use here. today. So everything was paper and pen. I ran a business, little technology, and then I came here for business education, and that's where I experienced all the technology. And in the last decade and so since I've been teaching, I try to incorporate technology to facilitate learning process for my students. So a couple of years ago, I got recognized for that at a school with the inaugural Technology Innovator of the Year award. And currently I'm working with our school as well. I'm one of the 4 digital fellows, which is a grant to Texas A&M University Kingsville. I think it's in association with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So we are working hard at A&M Kingsville to progress in technology. And my student has just joined, Sarah Keith. And Sarah is a finance major with a minor in ag business. She's from Floresville, Texas. Right now she's in Kingsville. She's a very active student. She is a member of Student Government Association. She is the vice president for our Financial Management Association. She's also a member of other sorority and our business professional fraternity. She works under our VP for Student Affairs as a student worker, and she's a world traveler. She has been to a lot of countries I can't even name, so we'll hear from her soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. So throughout the panel, I'm going to be walking around. I have questions for them, and then we'll open it up for the audience. So my first question is, throughout your background and your experience, which is very wide through the panel, how has instruction changed over the years?
I don't think instruction has changed in my experience. Instruction has been the same. It's a medium of instruction delivery, how students learn. And even 10 years ago, there were different types of learners. As I was a student in classes, we just did not have the technologies to facilitate all different learning processes. So as we are moving in future, the goal is to identify all those different types, and we have heard so many buzzwords over the conference which are all relevant, things like adaptive learning. We are getting down to individual learner, not just a type of learner. So it's changing fast. In my experience as a student, even here, the first experience with technology was obviously using PowerPoint slides in my classes to present instead of just talking. And then getting our grades on web CD, that was amazing. We got our grades communicated very quickly. And then as I moved into the teaching role, I've used several technologies in research, in teaching, of course, LMS, designing the courses. And now it's where I was thinking about how I have evolved in my teaching. In 2011, when I first taught my class, to pull up some economic data, I would go to my office and make handouts for all my students, 50 handouts. Well, 2 years later, I could use the PowerPoint projector and pull the website up right away. What did I do last week? I asked all my students, get your phones out and let's get on the website and find the data. So it's evolving fast. Once again, teaching and learning has been the same. It's the medium of instruction, the delivery, that's been changing very fast.
I think we've become a little bit more conscious about, or at least as faculty members, about the quality of instruction that we offer our students. And I know that there's a lot of faculty out there that are, just trying to either incorporate some kind of quality matters, and that's what I did on my courses. Is just I developed them using quality matters rubrics, and then I went beyond and said, well, I want to do more than that. I want to gamify and trying to learn that and incorporate it into a course. Just using Blackboard tools was definitely challenging. But 5 years or even 3 years ago, it would have been unimaginable. So we've come a long way from the days in 2000 where everything was in a folder to, hey, let's give them quality, let's make sure they're learning, let's make sure they're engaged, let's make sure they're motivated.
That's great. Mark, what about from an administrative perspective?
Well, actually, I agree with a lot of what you said. If you look at the university model, I mean, it's not just in the United States. University model goes back over 1,000 years. And when you factor in the technology, and you know, a lot of there's the podium, here are the students. Well, a lot of that was because there were no books. So most of it was being a scribe. You had to write your own books and share those. So through the years, teaching itself probably hasn't changed a whole lot. And you know, our innovations or disruptive technologies are the printing press and the internet. But when you walk down the hall of face-to-face classes, yeah, they may have PowerPoints, which is pretty cool, but it hasn't changed that much. We still have people moving from the classroom to the internet, and they haven't had much, if any, background in how to teach. You know, they're content specialists, so they tend to do what they've seen. And whatever their university professors did, that's what they do, which is mostly lecture. And fortunately or unfortunately, we have the technology now to take those lectures and move them out to the internet. So it's very easy for instructors to go, oh, I'll just record all my lectures. And some of them, they really cheat. They put a camera in their live classroom, you know, not the best audio, and then tell the students, read the book and watch my lectures, and here's the test. So, you know, we're still in need of that. How do you really teach? And it's not just the teachers, it's also the students. Because if you think about it, we've trained the students through the public schools, through the community colleges, through the universities. Here's how you learn. Sit down, tilt your head, we're going to learn you. You know, and the students, that's what they expect now. So they complain if you have them actually do something, you know, something participatory. Well, can't you just tell me? What's on the exam? Is this going to be a test question? So a lot of that has remained the same, but I think what you're saying, we have some technology that could significantly change how we deliver, how people learn, and it's just getting there. That's the part that's a little slow.
I think Mark brings up a good point about what students think and what they expect. So let's take a break from the in-house panel for a second. Let's ask the students, when you walk into a classroom, what do you expect to see? And what would you like to see? Tuva?
Well, first of all, I expect the professor to be prepared and have it all organized so it's easy for us to learn from the professor. But I agree with what you're saying, how we keep asking questions like, will this be an exam? How can we use this information? Will it be helpful for us, or can we not focus as much on it because we want to focus on what we know will be on the exams, which will give us a good grade and make us look good. So I agree, though. It's I see myself the changes we've had throughout the years of technology with school, and yeah, I just for me, the most important thing is the professor coming prepared, because they expect us to come in prepared, and if I've done my part of reading and like studying for whatever is going to happen in the class, I expect the professor to be prepared, and that's the most important thing for me, yeah. And it varies from professor to professor how they teach. So, and some professors, I don't mind that they don't use technical tools too much. Like in my classes that I have in class, face-to-face, I have professors who don't use PowerPoints too much. They just stand in front of us and educate, and we just have to take notes from what they're saying. And then I have other professors who stick to PowerPoints which I also find very helpful because it makes it easier to stay on track with what is being taught and how to take notes from it and learn from it. Yeah.
Sarah?
So with PowerPoints, I like when professors use PowerPoints, but I'm personally, for me in my learning experience, I feel like they're good, but at the same time they're distracting, and I usually don't read the PowerPoints because most professors, they do what we're taught not to do, which is have like paragraphs on your PowerPoint. So I pretty much zone out at that point, but it's nice afterwards because if I'm not paying attention in class, I can always go back and I can teach myself. And I think a lot of students do that because technology is also a distraction. And so if I have a professor usually that's doing off of PowerPoint, they don't care if you're on your phone during class, which is a disadvantage. I like when, I think you can use PowerPoints for like graphs and stuff to show students what you're talking about, but it's also helpful whenever you use the board. And so it's like, it's this like half and half kind of thing, or there's a balance in there just to keep students paying attention and seeing you moving around. I also liked, someone brought up how I guess using technology in the classroom to like make it more interactive. I agree with that a lot because for me it helps when it's kind of like bringing the outside like world and what you're going to be doing into the classroom. And it's like, this is what you're going to do. It's not just theory. It's here's an Excel sheet. Like go look up like the S&P 500. Go find out like what the prices are today. Go do this. Go do that. And that helps me learn because I'm like, this is what I'm going to be doing. So I think it helps a lot too.
Thanks. So kind of moving down the panel, really, the instruction hasn't changed that much. Technology is becoming a vehicle, but we also have, active learning and preparing students. So, Tila, what are you seeing in K-12?
I definitely think we're seeing a shift in K-12 from where pedagogy is really trumping content for the first time. I tell teachers we do a ton of professional development with teachers on the how to teach side. And what we tell them is you can have all the content knowledge in the world, but if you are not engaging and creating really powerful learning for students, it just doesn't matter. You can know everything, but if you don't know how to teach it and there might be kids who need 5, 6, 10 different modalities in a classroom in a K-12 setting. And so I'm really seeing a shift. It's slow. I will say as a parent of a high school senior, my child is bright and articulate, but sometimes he can't intellectually fight his way out of a paper bag because he plays school really well. And he doesn't have to think. And so what he does when he's challenged to think is he's mad at the teacher. Well, this is stupid. They just need to tell us what we need to know. And instead of them trying to formulate and come to their own conclusions about whatever the topic they're learning. And so, but I do think we're working really hard. It's too late for him. One of y'all are going to get him. We've had multiple conversations about how important it is to critically think and problem solve in day-to-day life and then also in his academics. So I do think we're seeing a shift.
Awesome. And what about from an instructional design perspective?
I think I agree with what you said about the awareness that's coming up. I think from an instructional design standpoint, I feel there are two things that really stand out to me. One is in terms of content. There is more open content now. And so it's much easier for the teacher to find open content and focus more on the activity and the engagement part of the class. The other aspect would be the learning space idea, where you think of a classroom as a learning space, an active learning space where you design how your students interact in class, right from your classroom management to how the tables are laid out or how the technology is laid out in the class. So from an instructional design standpoint, I think those two things are definitely coming up as, I would say, having a lot of, changes in those areas.
From the instructional design side, I'm very fortunate to have had leadership roles across here locally at the state with y'all as Texas DLA. And I just finished a 3-year term with the Quality Matters Instructional Designers Association, working with IDs across the country and international. But coming back to what we do, coming from the higher education standpoint, I think we're at a point in our lives, and I can see a lot of people in the audience that are facing challenges. I've seen people in this audience, I've been to every Texas DLA conference. But I think we're at a point in our lives that administration is turning that Titanic around and starting to recognize that IDs are part of the institution. I've worked with a lot of institutions and a team of 1, a team of 4 at our campus, a team of 10 at another campus, but IDs are part of that change. And I'm starting to see that administration is now recognizing changing that aspect of traditional classrooms. All of you in this room can walk down your hallways and no matter what building, you walk into a classroom, how's it still set? In rows, desks are still in rows. But today, I believe administration is now changing to use technology to make these smart classrooms or huddle teachings or classrooms that are innovative, chairs that swivel. 5 years ago, technology was still going. How many of you remember when getting your first cell phone? Raise your hand. How many of you remember how long it took you to send a text message? Scrolling through each letter, right? And you kept it very short, I bet. And then you started using acronyms like the number 4 for 4 and everything. Now today we're living in the world of emojis. Again, going back to higher education, IDs are part of that change, that cultivation of innovation, a confluence of cultures. All of you all are facing challenges. All of you have budgets. All of you all are trying to change the budget. But I believe to make change, it comes from the administration going down and so forth. We hear it all the time with students learning, faculty teaching, more professional development. But if you don't have the infrastructure, the staff in the higher education realm, it's hard. And many of you in this room, I can see, and on this stage, have that passion for what you do. If not, you would not be here today.
Thanks. I know that the panelists can't see this, but how many of you saw the students' faces when we started talking about texting and having to press the button 3 times? Again, the innovations that come along. I mean, I think today you can have an entire conversation with just using Bitmojis and emojis. It's something that we would have never dreamed about years ago. So with innovation often comes change. But before we talk about the change, let's talk about the innovation. What's one thing in today's current landscape that you think is innovative? You don't have to go in any order. You just jump in there.
Repeat that. I missed the last part.
What, in today's landscape of education and in academia, what would you consider innovative? Where are we going?
Let's see. There are several things. And kind of one thing, where's Clark? There's Clark. Stand up for a minute. You know, he's really pushed Quality Matters across the state. You know, in Orlando, we got a lot of folks. And a lot of that has to do with design of your course. But as you mentioned on the pedagogy side, you can have the fanciest race car in the world, the most expensive one, but if you don't know how to drive it, you aren't going to win the race. So we're getting to the point, you know, thanks to instructional designers and others, we're getting some really fancy race cars, but we still have a lot of folks who can't drive it. And you've probably heard this before. I've taught for 30 years. I know how to teach. Dude, they didn't have the internet back when you were teaching. How do you magically know this stuff? But you really have to be careful. And I think the next huge innovation is going to be the pedagogy, the how to drive that super fancy piece of technology, not so it makes it easy for you, but so that the students actually learn rather than just remember, oh, when was the War of 1812? And I've seen that question. Well, what kind of learning is that? You know, it's good for trivia shows or something. So I'd say pedagogy's just, it's right there. It's got to be next. I hope it's next.
Awesome. Tila?
I really think with the shifting of the pedagogy and the importance of the pedagogy, the next greatest thing in the K-12 arena is really that individualization of instruction and really reaching every child where they need to be reached, no matter where that is. And I think that, again, I think in my world right now, Canvas is going to help us get there because teachers can push out to these 3 kids an assignment that looks different than the assignment that goes to these 5 or these 7. And so being able to individualize instruction and look at data, IBM Watson is really changing the face of K-12 education as we look at all the data pulled in together to help make those individualized learning plans for everyone.
I'm going to add to the pedagogy part here, Mark. Last summer, I developed these courses fully online, and I wanted to incorporate gamification, but I didn't want to incorporate leaderboards and points, and I wanted to do more on the pedagogy part. I mean, what good is it if you're going to have a leaderboard and it doesn't really make a difference? So what I did in my courses was things like onboarding, which is really simple. It doesn't take technology. You can do it in Blackboard. I did signposting. I've incorporated the badges part because I think it's important. But behind that, there's a lot of pedagogy. And I've also used co-performance in Blackboard. Again, a lot of pedagogy. You don't just get there. But I didn't want any fancy, and I think about back on the web pages back in the days where it was flashing. That's not what I wanted to do. I didn't want all these fancy tricks. I just wanted to make the course more engaging through pedagogy, definitely. But where are we going to go with this? I mean, it's really up to us, the faculty. How much work do we want to, can we afford to put into it? I mean, it does take a lot of work to set it up, but I really think it's worth it. And there's more to do in this area of gamification. For me in my courses, I've only done like 3 things, and I can add more pedagogy, gamification strategies easily within the next couple of years or so.
Innovation's tricky in my book. There are definitions of innovation, and there are a lot of things happening that I can tell you right now I feel are innovative in our instruction. And the problem is tomorrow my innovation might change. I'll say, oh, this is what I feel today is innovation. So every new piece of technology we might say is innovation, but we also have to look at lots of things that Mark and Ram touched base on. Somebody who's been teaching for 30 years using Blackboard, for that person using a dock camera is innovation. Because not every student in your class can read from the board. So identifying those gaps, identifying those places, what innovation means for an individual on our campuses, we can implement the changes in a much better way than defining what's innovation. Let's go with the new next trend. So that's my perspective on that.
Hi, I would like to agree with what you said about individualized learning. I, as an instructional designer, constantly have seen through webinars and all these other conferences that I've gone to that personalized learning has been gaining a lot of momentum. And I think the reason why that is because the idea of the lack on the pedagogical side and maybe the students wanting more out of the class or out of the teacher. And so that whole shift is kind of gaining momentum. And I think adaptive learning is also a part of that whole umbrella.
With the part of innovation, coming back from the instruction design point, I've been with ID since 2009, and I believe today LMSs are now learning or starting to figure out how teachers teach and how students learn. But we're still set with the most traditional methods of learning online, which is a discussion board. Boring, blah, 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 reading threads, so forth. Now I'm starting to see the trend into innovation where I'm trying to push faculty in our institution to be more interactive. The number one question I get when a faculty wants to teach us online, I don't see my students. There's different ways to see your students. It's the way how you teach online to get that interaction. 2009, when we did an LMS update in our campus, Blackboard fires, Blackboard 9.0 challenges everyone here, right? You all remember those days, Blackboard 9.0? Again, I'm not vendor agnostic, but other institutions use different LMSs. But the way we're starting to innovate faculty is by inspiring them that they can do this and that students can learn from what you're teaching. You mentioned yesterday about the keynote with the maze. Do you want to touch that point on the maze?
Yeah, so that was a really interesting example, I think, in yesterday's keynote about how a faculty and an instructional designer's view is the bird's eye view, whereas the student's view is actually directly within the maze. And that kind of piggybacks again to the whole personalized learning thing. It's almost like adaptive learning guides the students through the maze in how you want them to succeed or what they want to learn.
So let's throw that back up to Tuva and Sarah. What would you think if you had a personalized learning path that was designed for you and the way you maybe learn best in your career? Was that something that would be interesting to you?
Yeah, most definitely. And I see that in Dr. De La Rosa's class, how everything's very structured and organized. It's very easy he makes it very easy to do good in the class because he has all these different files and steps to follow. Do this first and then you'll do this. And when you finish everything, you'll see how you've done. You have the badges to look at and the goal performance link, and it really helps you to do the best you can in his class. Yeah.
Sarah?
I agree with Tuva. I think that a personalized learning situation would definitely help me be more prepared. I think that the traditional, like I said earlier, I think the traditional classroom is what we expect to see. And when a professor comes in and starts using things that are more interactive and using distance learning and telling us to go online and look things up or to use different tools that are available like LinkedIn or whatever they ask us to do, it breaks that expectation, and it also prepares us more for what we're going to be doing in the future. So.
And how did the rest of the class react to those methodologies?
I think that everyone likes that, especially like if we're told to use Google Docs or we're told to use our Blackboard more. I know, like in my experience and like with my peers, especially if it's something that we didn't know about, it's something that I'm going to use in the future. I took a business communications class online, and every week we had to do something else, and she would like tell us, she'd give us a new website, and she'd go create an account on this, and you're going to learn how to do that. You're going to learn how to like do all these different things. And that's something I'll never forget. I've been in classrooms where for the 50 minutes I sit there and I take absolutely nothing out of it because my eyes will glaze over, I'm tired, I'm hungry. But with that online class, it was, okay, I'm going to do this on my time when I'm mentally ready and I'm, going through the motions, I'm clicking things, I'm creating my own, and that really helped. And I think my peers definitely feel the same way.
I'd like to follow up with what she's saying, and one of the things we worked hard on, I think, over the last year in K-12 is that we've really moved away from talking about teaching, and we really are encouraging our teachers to design learning experiences, that students want experience-based learning, and that the way they're going to continue to hold on to that information is to personalize it themselves. And the way they personalize it is for you to create an experience for them. And so we've really worked hard with teachers to say, you're awesome. Teachers are awesome. Every one of you sitting out here, and as building principal, I mean, my teachers work hard, long days. It's heavy lifting to be a teacher, but it's even heavier lifting to create a different way and to create learning experiences for kids that don't look like even, I think we've done a good job in the K-12 environment of getting away from 50-minute lectures or you know, if you've got high school kids for 50 minutes, you know, we had moved to a place where maybe you were only lecturing 20 minutes and then doing a lot of workshop based. I'm going out, I'm talking to kids in the classroom, putting them in groups. But now we're moving away from that, and it's really about the design of the learning that is really going to be impactful for students in the future.
Yeah, so we've been talking a lot about the innovations around it, but you bring up a really great point. It's the change. And change is difficult and challenging for some people. So how in your organizations do you handle that change?
Going back from the instruction design change, we have to change every day. And even if we don't know that change, it's going to happen. But working with faculty and students, we have to remember they're all humans. You know, I always, working with every faculty, every student, or a ticket comes in, or a walk-in comes in, we have to give that respect to them for 15, 20 minutes, an hour. But remember, we're all humans at the end of the day. And Dr. Michelle Duran, my direct supervisor, many years ago when she got hired at our campus, she gave each of us a duck. And that duck is in our desk. Y'all know the story of the duck, if you want to follow leadership a few years ago? So we call ourselves the Mighty Ducks, in our department. So a duck is really cool and calm on the surface, and underneath they're pedaling really quick, but we have to be cool and calm. Remember, each faculty, each student that comes in is given the respect, but that change, and they're here to learn.
Yeah, I would like to add to that because as my role as instructional designer for a year, I have really struggled with the whole idea of change, and I finally come to the conclusion that as instructional designer, change is actually constant for us. So that's something we have to get used to. And as far as from the working with faculty side perspective, most often than not, as an instructional designer, I think faculty members do not know in a lot of campuses still what instructional designers are and what they do. So most often than not, I get calls for technical support. And as an instructional designer, I would take it as an invitation, and I would support and open that door and maybe push them one step inside my world. And that's the biggest change I think I consider even in my area.
So a lot of people say that we don't like change. We like to do the things we always do. I would like to disagree. I would say that we love to change when we want to. We don't like change when we are forced to change. So if we identify that when supervisor asks you to use a certain technology in the classroom as a faculty, yes, I'm not comfortable with the technology itself. How can I expect my students to be comfortable with it? So in my classrooms, my theory of change is change starts from students, what they want from my classes. An example I can give you, right now I'm in the process of developing a gamification module for economics classes, but it all started 4 or 5 years ago, talking about money and banking. It was all on the board. Here's the bank A, bank B, exchanging bills multiplying, things like that. And then one student, while I was talking about it, he cut up certain note cards and said, can we just pretend this as a pretend money, and I'm bank A, he's bank B, and let's do that. All right, so we started playing that game in the classroom. So from that point forward, now I'm developing with the software, so it doesn't have to be only in the classroom, it can be for my online classes too. So we like change when we want to change. So my theory of dealing with change is let it happen and see where it goes instead of just being forced to change.
Well, I definitely think that if you're in this room and you're an innovator, and if you're an innovator, you're very comfortable with change. So it's just as faculty member, you need to, just keep looking to what's coming up and be able to adjust to it. And for example, I'll give you one example. One of my coworkers, Anthony Salinas, he records himself on these apps in his mobile phone, and then just uploads them into Blackboard like that. And I'm like, how'd you do that? Because I've tried it and it just doesn't work. You gotta upload it, download it, click here, click there. And he just, so I want to change the way I teach next semester because of what he's telling me, what he's showing me. And again, if you're here, you're an innovator and you're probably real comfortable with change.
Yeah, innovation, that was a big thing for a while, and it kind of got pushed to the backside, but there are so many neat things about some of the innovation books that you can read. And one of them is that when there's a really neat new innovation, if people really want it, the technology, no matter what it is, isn't great. In fact, a lot of times it's really bad, and as you're saying, oh, look at the text, and you're sitting there having to hit the same key 4 or 5 times to get one letter, but that was the neatest thing ever. Couldn't do that before. So if you think of these institutions, they're out there, they're in Hawaii, they're surfing, but all of a sudden here comes this huge wave, this distance learning wave. And, you got to follow the money, right? This is enrollment. So, hey, we need to jump on board. Well, what has happened is a really big wave. So now they're in the tunnel, and the wave's curled up over them, and at some point it comes crashing down. Well, that's great, but for our instructional designers, that means some of them have little feet paddling so fast they look like a jet boat with a big rooster tail behind it because, they're like, oh my gosh, now we've got all these people and they got in it just to see what it was. Some get in it as kind of a hobby. Well, there could be something to this. Some of our folks are bleeding edge type and cutting edge type, man, if it's new, I want to do it. And you don't necessarily know how to use the technology, and the technology is not necessarily appropriate, but it's new and cool. So we have, again, our instructional designers that now have this huge number of folks that have overrun them, and now you have to go back and basically retrain a lot of them for some of the technologies that you're using. So for change, it helps if you have these really innovative, cutting edge, bleeding edge folks that want to do things, because they're the ones that are going to get out there. And then it's kind of like Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn. How do you make whitewashing the fence look good? And you get those really energetic folks, and then they start going, oh man, I'm doing so many cool things. Well, then you get some of the folks that have been in the classroom for years going, well, can I try that? And then again, your feet don't have to paddle as fast when it comes that way, but still, it's just great stuff when you see people doing that.
So Tuva and Sarah, when you show up to a class and your faculty has implemented something new, how do you and your peers, classmates, deal with that change?
First of all, I think it varies with how the professor is implementing it. I've experienced a lot of professors who are they come up negative about the change, which instantly makes us feel negative about the change as well. And then I have professors who are always complaining about how to use Blackboard and it's so hard and we should stay away from it and we hand in everything in paper and like they don't like it. And then like that gives us a negative perception of Blackboard and technical tools. And then I have other professors who are like super positive and like, oh, I have this new thing and we're going to start doing this and I'm very excited about it. And that makes such a big difference how the professor implements it to the students. And I don't know, I think I see more change in my online classes than I've seen it more in my online classes than I've seen it in my in-class classes. And it has a lot to do with how the professor is implementing it, with how we take it, because most of this, well, there are students of all ages, of course, but my generation growing up, we've experienced so much change, especially technical changes throughout the years. So I don't think most of us don't really have a problem with changes. We're used to, we're okay with it. We know that's how we move forward. So personally, I'm okay with changes, but it has a lot to do with how the professor comes to the class with the change and like, we'll do this new thing and this will make our class even better and you'll learn more and this will make you a better person and student. Or when you have a professor who's like, oh, I hate this system, just print out the journal and hand it in to me in class. So yeah, I think overall change is good, but it depends on how you're met with it, like how the professor or your peers take on that change.
Sarah?
I agree. I think that it definitely, the attitude of the professor makes a big impact on how the students are going to receive the change. I know, like, in my experience, I've had professors that don't use Blackboard at all. And to me, I feel like that gives me a disadvantage because I'm personally, like, I love structure. I love the organization. I love being able to pull up my syllabus. I mean, some professors don't even put their syllabus on my Blackboard. That's frustrating. Personally, like, with, in Harmeet's class, we actually, like, for me, I was an assistant for him, and he would come in and bring in like ideas about how to use Blackboard tools that I had never used before in Blackboard. And there's some things that he still has it on his like syllabus where you can go and like, I guess, chat online, like on Blackboard with him whenever you need him. So you like have access to him pretty much anytime, anywhere. I never used that personally because I didn't know how to use it. But just like that kind of excitement towards Blackboard, towards like the different, like all the different menu settings, because everyone uses course content syllabus. But whenever a professor starts using like the discussion boards, the discussion groups, and setting us up, it just makes us grow more, I feel like. And I think that even if there's some change that makes you uncomfortable, it's good when the professor, I agree that being forced to change isn't necessarily a good thing, but as a student, when a professor is telling you need to do this, you're kind of being forced anyway. You have to do it if you want a good grade in the class. I think it's positive because we're here to learn, we're here to grow, and you do end up growing out of it and learning, and it's going to make you a better professional in the future at the end of the day. So definitely the professor's attitude, but I do think we are receptive to change, and my peers, like, we just, we have to roll with the punches. So
I really think what they just said brings it all home, which is the relationship trumps everything. And so whether you're doing that online or you're doing that face-to-face, or if you're in a foundations class where you've got 200 kids sitting in that room, you can utilize the technology to increase that relationship. I graduated from West Texas A&M a bazillion years ago, and I still have relationships with my professors that sought relationships with me. I still rely on them, call them, talk to them, not the ones who didn't. I can't even tell you most of their names, but I have a handful that maintained a relationship with me in class and in an online environment that has caused me to continue to interact with them.
Fantastic. Well, I want to kind of wrap up a little bit. Thank you so much for this panel. I think your insights, a variety of perspectives as well, really helps us think about innovation, change, in the future differently as we move forward in our careers. We do have just a few minutes left, so I do have time for at least one question. Who has something that they want to ask either our panel or our students? Come on.
For the students.
Here. No, they've got it.
For the students, Sarah, what would you say, I mean, you've got a room full of educators here, a captive audience. What do you want to say to them to make the online courses, the online sections more attractive for your peers?
I have an answer to that. My online class with Dr. De La Rosa, his online class, the only online class that I have that has badges and the goal performance and the onboarding section and the whole gamification, and it really makes a difference from my other online classes. And I definitely think that is something, in case you're using those things already, that's definitely something to look at and definitely a change to implement to your online classes. I'm a student athlete. I'm very busy. I have an extremely difficult schedule to stay on track of, and having structured and organized online classes makes it so much easier for me to get whatever I need to get done, because I'll be on the road and I'll be traveling or have a game and I can't go to class, and having his online classes makes it very easy for me. I'm able to, my time management is I structure everything in the way I want to do it, how I need to do it, get it done before the due date, of course. And it makes it a lot easier being a student athlete, but also just a student. Like, it's, we're definitely changing for the better, I think, with online classes if we were to continue with what Dr. De La Rosa has implemented with his online class. Yeah.
Sarah?
I think for me, if I could tell a professor like what works best or what I would like out of my education here at A&M Kingsville, is to implement things. Every class can pretty much do it some way, like take it out of the textbook and give me an experience, give me something that I'm going to remember, that I'm going to know how to do, whether it be like I had an income tax class where we had to download the H&R Block like functions, so we had to go in and do those online to create our own income tax forms, or whether it was going online and posting blogs or anything like that, something that I can do. If I have to bring in my laptop and work up something on Excel, doing that in class for me helps me learn a lot more than sitting and listening to a lecture, seeing PowerPoints. So that's what I would say, is just give me an experience that I can learn from, that I'm doing, that I'm making my own, because I think that'll make me a better professional at the end of the day, or make me more prepared.
Again, I want to thank all of our panelists and the students for taking the time to join us today. This has been really great conversation, so thank you.